I'm going to do another drive find element, and this time I'm going to call it by its class name instead of the ID. So you can still use a by object, and then I'm calling class name. Use the class name method. It'll return back my submit web element, which is the button, and then if I want to click on it, I'll just say submit and then .click. So it's click. The next step in the script is I want to wait for this page to load. So there's some synchronization that has to happen. I'll make sure that all the elements are displayed that I'm going to use next. Once I click that button, the page is going to load, and WebDriver will wait for the page to load, but there might be some AJAX calls or something that's happening on that page that load in different stages. And so I want to make sure that once I click that the search result will show up. And so I'm going to use a WebDriverWait. So I create a new WebDriverWait, and then I'm going to wait until. So first I have to pass WebDriverWait the driver object itself. I'm going to have it wait for 10 seconds and wait until some expected condition occurs. So this is a new expected condition, and I want it to return back a Boolean type. So it'll tell me if it's true or false. That way I can declare a Boolean variable of is it found. So I want to see, is this element found that I'm looking for? So I'll create this new expected condition of Boolean type. I'll override the expected conditions apply method and return a Boolean value. So we override the apply method. We pass it the WebDriver argument from here. It receives that as the argument, and then what I'm going to return back is I'm going to do a driver find element. I'm going to return back by ID this results collection element. That's the ID attribute, and I want to make sure it's enabled. And if it's enabled and it's on that page, then is found should be true. If this results column element is not on the page and it's not enabled, then is found will be false. And that occurs just when I do something like test automation for dummies or something like that. I search for it, and this overall inside here I should see a results column in here. Right there. There's the ID for that. It's not a visible element that's going to display any content, so it just needs to be enabled. And once that's there, then I'll have the ability to manipulate these titles and things. So I just want to make sure that it's enabled and that it's found. Okay, so inside the apply method, I'm just going to return, and I'm overriding the apply method, and I'm declaring a driver find element by ID, this results column, and find out if it's enabled. And it's going to wait 10 seconds. It's going to keep repeating itself, pulling it to make sure it finds it. And after 10 seconds, it's going to throw an error if it's not found. So we're just going to check, and if it's found, we're just going to do an assert. So we want to assert true using the JUnit assertion. And I'm going to put an error message here that says the search results page did not load. So if this comes back and it's false, is found equals false, then it'll display this error message. And the test will fail, and it'll tell me the search results page did not load. If it is true and it finds this element, the next step that it'll execute will be to find the book title. So I want to find the book title, so I create another web element, name it book title, do driver find element, and I want to find it by its CSS selector. And this expression here is just using a pound sign before this means ID, and then there's a space in here that means there could be a couple elements nested deeper, and there'll be a result underscore 0 ID inside of this ATF results ID. And then inside of that, put a space there, so that means nested in that could be a class named data. So dot represents class data. So we'll look for that data class, and then another space represents inside of that, there'll be this dot title or title class. And then inside of that, I have a direct descendant or child with this little arrow or the greater than symbol, and inside of that there'll be an anchor element. So that CSS Selector will look for inside this page, it should look for this first title. So if we inspect the element to see it, it would look for this ID, ATF results. Inside of it, at some level, we should have an ID of result 0. Expand that out. Inside of that, there should be a class of data. Inside of that, there should be a class of title. Inside of that, there should be an anchor. And that will actually hold the content of the title. So all we're doing is drilling down to get this book title. The next thing I'm going to do is I want to assert the title, the very first title. I'm only looking for the first title, result equals 0, just for the script. And make sure the first element returned back was the one I expected. So I'm going to do another assert, JUnit assert. This time I'm going to do assert equals. And in there, the first parameter is the error message. The first book was not correct. So if it doesn't match, it'll return back this error message. The first book was not correct, and it'll fail the test. Second one is my expected value. So this would be my book title that I expect to see, Test Automation for Dummies. And then my web element is the actual. And I'm going to do a getText method call, which will actually get the text node from that web element inside that anchor right there, and it'll get that text node and return it back. And then the assert equals will compare the expected text here with the actual text there, and if it's equal, then it passes the test. If it doesn't equal, then it'll return this error message back.